Nobody inside the Foro Italico expected the President of Italy to stop watching the match, and they definitely didn't expect him to walk away from the royal box in the middle of one of the biggest weekends of the Italian Open just to meet a 20-year-old injured player from the Philippines. But that's exactly what happened. One moment, the crowd was focused on the action happening on the red clay. The next, cameras were suddenly turning upward. Security teams started shifting positions, officials looked confused, and then Sergio Mattarella, the president of Italy himself, walked directly toward Alex Eala before making an announcement that reportedly left the entire stadium frozen in silence. Because what happened next wasn't just about tennis anymore, it became something far bigger than sport. By the time the Italian Open reached its final stages, Alex Eala had already become one of the tournament's biggest stories. And the shocking part was that she didn't even need to reach the final to do it. Everywhere inside the Foro Italico, Philippine flags were suddenly appearing in massive numbers. Fans were chanting her name through the walkways, outside practice courts, and during matches that normally wouldn't attract that kind of emotional energy. Italian reporters reportedly began noticing that every time Eala stepped onto the grounds, the atmosphere changed instantly. It felt louder, more emotional, more personal. Even longtime tennis fans in Rome were surprised by how quickly the Filipina star had built such a passionate following so far away from home. What made it even more incredible was the timing. Alex Eala was still recovering from the ankle injury that ended her tournament run early. Her momentum on the court had been stopped suddenly, but somehow her presence around the event only grew stronger afterward. Fans continued showing up wearing Philippine colors. Videos of supporters chanting her name spread all over social media. Some online even claimed they had never seen a Southeast Asian athlete create this kind of atmosphere at a major European tennis event before. Whether that was fully true or not, one thing was obvious: Rome had completely embraced her. But nobody realized just how deeply that impact had reached until Italy's most powerful figure quietly took notice himself. Sergio Mattarella had arrived at the tournament without much fanfare. At 84 years old, the Italian president had witnessed decades of historic sporting moments, from World Cup celebrations to Olympic triumphs. Just days earlier, he had met with Italy's Davis Cup and Billie Jean King teams at the Quirinal Palace, congratulating the nation's tennis stars for their recent success. Reports claimed he originally attended the Italian Open simply as a ceremonial guest, another respected statesman enjoying an important national sporting event. But then, something unexpected caught his attention during one of the semi-final matches. Across the royal backs, partially hidden behind a marble pillar, sat Alex Eala with her ankle wrapped in compression support. She wasn't on the court, she wasn't part of the official ceremony, yet the energy surrounding her section felt impossible to ignore. Philippine flags continued waving nearby, fans kept looking toward her seats between points. According to reports, Mattarella quietly asked an official who she was. Once he was told about her tournament run, her injury, and the emotional wave she had created among Filipino supporters in Rome, something changed. Witnesses said the president paused for a moment before making a decision nobody around him expected. He wanted to meet her personally. And that's when the entire atmosphere inside the stadium shifted. At first, almost nobody noticed him standing up, but inside a setting as formal as the royal box, every movement carries meaning. Officials reportedly exchanged nervous glances as Mattarella began walking away from his seat. Security personnel quickly repositioned themselves. Broadcast cameras that had been focused entirely on the match suddenly turned upward. Within seconds, thousands of fans inside the stadium realized something unusual was happening. The president of Italy was walking directly toward Alex Eala. Step by step, he moved past tournament executives, federation officials, and rows of distinguished guests. The match itself almost became background noise. Fans started pointing toward the royal box. Commentators reportedly struggled to explain what they were watching in real time because moments like this almost never happened during live competition. Then, Alex looked up and realized who was approaching her. Her reaction said everything.
For a split second, she looked completely stunned. And honestly, who wouldn't be? One minute she was quietly sitting in recovery after her tournament heartbreak, and next, the President of Italy was standing directly in front of her, extending his hand. Witnesses described the scene as strangely emotional because the entire stadium seemed to collectively pause at once. The chants for Alex slowly started building again throughout the crowd, softer at first, then louder and louder until they echoed around the ancient marble structures surrounding the court. Mattarella reportedly greeted her warmly, telling her it was an honor to meet her. Alex, still visibly processing the moment, thanked him respectfully. But the handshake itself wasn't the real shock. What came next was the part nobody saw coming. After briefly speaking with her, the president turned toward the cameras and made an announcement that instantly transformed the moment into international news. He reportedly praised not only Eala's performances during the tournament, but also her resilience, spirit, and the incredible passion shown by Filipino fans throughout the week. Then came the line that completely stunned the crowd. Sergio Mattarella reportedly praised not only Eala's performances during the tournament, but also her resilience, spirit, and the incredible passion shown by Filipino fans throughout the week. Then came the line that completely stunned the crowd. Sergio Mattarella announced that Alex Eala would receive the Order of the Star of Italy, one of the highest honors the Italian Republic can bestow upon a foreign national. The stadium reportedly gasped. Even longtime tennis journalists appeared caught off guard, because honors like this are rarely associated with athletes in the middle of a tournament story, especially one who hadn't even won the event. Alex herself looked visibly emotional, trying to process what she had just heard. Reports claimed several people inside the royal box were left speechless, because suddenly this wasn't just about a rising tennis player anymore. It had become a cultural moment unfolding live in front of the world. And that's when social media absolutely exploded. Within hours, clips of the interaction spread across platforms in Italy, the Philippines, and far beyond tennis circles. News outlets reportedly interrupted regular programming to discuss the announcement. Filipino fans online described the moment as deeply emotional, not simply because of the award itself, but because of what it symbolized. Many saw it as recognition not only for Alex Eala, but for Filipinos around the world who often feel overlooked on the global stage. The Order of the Star of Italy carries enormous significance. Originally created after World War II, the honor recognizes foreign nationals who strengthen Italy's international relationships and cultural ties. Over the years, recipients have included diplomats, cultural leaders, and influential international figures. That's why the announcement felt so extraordinary. Alex Eala wasn't being recognized for politics or diplomacy. She was being recognized because one athlete somehow managed to create an emotional bridge between two nations through sport alone. And honestly, that's what made the story hit differently.
She hadn't won the Italian Open. She didn't lift a trophy. Her tournament ended painfully after an ankle injury forced her withdrawal. In normal circumstances, that would have been the end of the story. But instead, her impact somehow became even larger after leaving the court. The sea of Philippine flags inside the Foro Italico became symbolic of something bigger than fandom. For many viewers, especially Filipinos living abroad, it represented visibility, presence, pride, a feeling of finally being seen on one of sport's grandest international stages. Some reports even suggested tournament officials were surprised by how dramatically attendance and crowd energy shifted around Eala's matches during the week. Online speculation also started growing about whether the Italian Open could now permanently embrace her as one of the tournament's most beloved international figures moving forward. Of course, those conversations remain speculative for now, but the emotional reaction surrounding her was undeniably real. Then came one of the quietest moments of the entire story, and somehow also one of the most powerful. Later that night, Alex Eala finally broke her silence with a simple Instagram story.
No dramatic press conference, no long statement, just a photo of the Roman sky from her hotel window. Underneath it, she reportedly wrote a short message thanking Italy and expressing disbelief over what had happened. Fans immediately flooded social media with reactions, saying the simplicity of the post made the moment feel even more emotional. After everything that happened inside the stadium, she responded not with celebration, but with gratitude. And maybe that's exactly why this story resonated so strongly around the world, because in the end, this was never really about rankings, trophies, or statistics. It was about connection, about how one young athlete unexpectedly became the emotional center of an entire international sporting event. For one unforgettable week in Rome, Alex Eala represented something larger than tennis. She represented identity, pride, and the idea that sports can unite people across borders in ways politics and headlines often cannot. The image itself almost feels surreal when you think about it. Ancient Roman statues surrounding the Foro Italico, thousands of fans waving Philippine flags, and the President of Italy walking across the royal box to honor a 20-year-old Filipina player whose tournament had already ended. It sounds almost fictional, but that's exactly why the moment captured so many people emotionally. Now the question surrounding Alex Eala feels bigger than ever. When she returns to Rome in the future, will she simply come back as another player competing for points and trophies, or has she already become something far more symbolic than that? Because whether she wins the Italian Open someday or not, one thing already seems undeniable. Alex Eala changed something in Rome, and judging by the reaction across two nations, people may remember that long after the final scores are forgotten. If you enjoyed this story, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more sports moments that go far beyond the scoreboard.